good. Thank you, one person. Thank you.
Hello! Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
You're very close to the stage as well. This is too close. I'm uncomfortable.
Hello and welcome to France in Focus. This week we're off to meet some of those who brave the stage in the hope that we will be left rolling in the aisles. French comedy venues are often filled for one-man shows, and there's an Anglophone pack of stand-uppers all eager to make France titter and giggle at venues like this one, the Goku Club.
I was a bit hungover, so I ended up with this. So now I don't just have a resting bitch face, I have a resting bitch haircut too. Thank you very much, that's my time!
Hi! They sailed around and they discovered Cameroon. Discovered. That's a nice euphemism. I don't know. Maybe in Portugal, if you go home at night and there's a stranger in your living room, they're just discovering your apartment. I don't know. What the fuck are you? I'm an explorer, sir. Oh, you scared me.
The fantastic Anna-Beth Crist.
So, my name is Anna. I'm an American living in Paris, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Ever since Emily in Paris came out, I just have to leave with that. And I've been on the dating app so long that I've seen guys get promotions. It's been years. Thank you so much.
Hi!
Anna, hello, and thank you so much for talking to France 24.
Sure, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. My first question is, how would you describe your own blend of humour and your act?
It's kind of a hard question because I think it takes many years for people to really find their comedic voice. But I would say I do kind of observational comedy. I talk about my personal life, dating, and yeah, I'm a little bit socially awkward, so I have a little bit of an awkward persona that I try to embrace on stage.
You have a full-time job, obviously,
Yeah.
and you do stand up quite a few nights a week.
Yeah.
So my question is, where do you find the time to be inspired and do your writing?
That's a really good question. Lunch breaks. Often ideas come to me right before bed. The shower thoughts also, you write things down. I have all these sticky notes around my apartment, and sometimes I just have to grab any pen, any paper I find and write something down.
You're obviously from the United States.
Yes, I am.
From what I've seen online, you tend to take aim at Americans and Americans that are visiting Paris. Is that right?
Okay, I have a couple jokes about Americans in France, yeah, because of my own experience, what I've observed here, and my own flaws that I've recognized in myself. And
You've been doing it for quite some time now, this stand-up. Do you still find it daunting or intimidating getting on stage?
Yes, every time. I'm still nervous, yeah. I think it's just nerve-wracking going up in front of a lot of people and getting worried that you're gonna forget what you're gonna say, or, it's always scary if people aren't gonna laugh. And you never know what kind of crowd you're gonna experience. So you can have a plan, like a couple hours before, I'm gonna do all of this, and then you get there and it's 10 people, and it makes it pretty difficult, so.
Have you had any really, really bad experiences?
Oh, sure, yeah. I think I've performed in front of 3 people. So that's always a bit of a challenge, and you kind of have to change your plan at that point and adapt to the situation, ideally.
Is the fact that the Anglophone comedy circuit in Paris is so small, is that a comfort for people like you?
Yeah, it's definitely a comfort. I don't think I would have started if it was a big competitive scene like there is in London, because you have to really work super hard to get any bit of stage time. You need to bring friends to a show. You need to pay to play. Sometimes you have to pay to get stage time. So here it's been kind of a way I found a community and formed friendships, and There isn't enough people for it to be super competitive, and if anyone's a jerk, like there's just no room for that.
Is there a shortage of women doing stand-up in general?
Yeah, I'd say that there is. Definitely on the English-speaking comedy scene in Paris. We don't have a ton of women performing at the higher level, although there are plenty of women starting out in the open mic scene. And actually that's something I'm trying to help with. I'm actually kind of partnered one of my shows with Funny Women UK recently, which is a UK organization that's trying to promote women in comedy. And so once a month, actually, I run an all-female comedy show to try to kind of also promote women in stand-up.
Okay, Anna, thank you very much for talking to France 24.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, thank you.
Our second guest is a man who's made it from small comedy clubs to massive theatres. Paul Taylor has perhaps one of the most British names possible, and yet he's a big deal here in France with his affectionate mockery of the country and its people.
One kiss? Do I give her 2 kisses? Do I give her 3 kisses? How many kisses should I be giving you?
His latest show is called Bisous Bye. We're popping in to see him at his recording studio.
Paul Taylor, hello.
Hi.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming to my small studio.
Thank you very much. Do you remember some of the earliest experiences that you had on stage and how daunting that might have been for you?
Yeah, I think it was mostly the fact that there was no audience. You know, when I started doing stand-up 10 years ago in Paris, it wasn't really a stand-up country, France. It didn't really exist. There was like some TV shows about it, but it wasn't really the same vibe as we're used to in English-speaking countries. And one of the shows that I do remember that I did, there were 4 of us on stage and there were 5 people in the audience. And it turned out the 5 people knew each other. It was 5 guys. One of them had just been dumped by his girlfriend. So decided to come to this bar to watch a comedy show, and there's 4 of us on stage. And it was at the time when you start out, often the shows are free, but then you have a hat at the end. You contribute what you think the show is worth. And the 5 of them dropped a €5 note, and we divided it up between us. And it was, so we ended up with €1.20 each. So I took the €1.20 and I put it in my frame and left it here because I thought, that's kind of cool. I'm like, no, it's going way better than it was when I was getting €1.20.
Now, criticising France and criticising the French people, the French way of life is very much at the heart of what you do. Us Brits often love to laugh at ourselves, but can the French do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's as you said, that's kind of been my bread and butter, as we would say in English, and it's gone well. So I think if you do it in the right way, I think if it's done in the right way, if it's not just the stereotypical Emily in Paris type stuff where it's so obvious, it's like, oh God, that's not what happens anymore. You need to go into the details, and that's when I think French people will accept it, and they're happy to laugh at themselves.
We've been hearing about certain stand-up comics going around stealing other stand-up comics' jokes. How hard is it for a stand-upper to protect his work?
For me, there's stealing and stealing, right? There's been a lot of, there had been, this is years ago, when there was a whole bunch of videos that came out in France about French comedians stealing English or English-speaking comedians' jokes. And I'd say like 10% of them were worth the video. And the rest of them, there's how many topics are there in comedy? There's not really that many topics. It's your spin on it. And there's been times where I've had people who've done very similar jokes to me, or I've been like, mate, that's kind of exactly the same thing. But then when you drill down, it's like, the joke isn't that much of a complicated joke to find. And it's probably a joke that people down the pub have been telling each other for years, so you can't really complain about it. If it push comes to shove, there are legal ways to do it, but you sort it out between comedians.
Let's talk now about the new show that you're doing. It's called Bisous Bye. You're touring France and you're about to tour Europe. It's the last show that you're going to do that's in both French and in English. What are you saying farewell to?
Well, for a start, the concept of a bilingual show. This is my 3rd bilingual show, and I feel like I've got more to give, but in in one language, either only in French or only in English. Saying goodbye to alcohol. I quit alcohol about 6 months ago. So on the show I talk about why and kind of the effects of that.
I was there again for work. I got drunk with my friends. I wake up at 4 a.m. outside my hotel room, trying to get into my hotel room. And I'm completely naked. So I have to go down to the reception of a 5-star hotel because it's an Apple business trip to go to the guy and be like, lo siento, he dejado mi llave en la habitación. No sé qué pasó, no sé qué pasó.
We said goodbye to the Queen, so I talk about that for a little bit, and the interesting vibe that was going on inside of English people versus French people and what the royalty kind of meant for us.
Et la réaction française, franchement, il y avait deux camps. Des Français qui étaient tristes avec moi et qui ont dit ouais c'est intéressant, ouais moi aussi ça me fait de la peine, j'ai l'impression qu'elle a toujours été là, surtout des gens âgés. Normal, les gens plus jeunes, ils font hey Paul, hey, God save the Queen, et ben ça il l'a pas sauvé hein. Ah ouais c'est une bonne blague en vrai.
And goodbye to my youth. I'm getting older and I have to kind of accept that. It's difficult, but you get to the point when you're in your mid-30s where you go, okay, cool, I'm not one of the young people anymore.
Let's now imagine that I want to do what you did a few years ago and brave the stage and pick up a mic and try and tell some jokes. What advice would you give me?
Don't do it. No, what advice would I give you? I would say, you got to find 5 minutes that you think are funny, and you've got to repeat it over and over again in your head until you've got all the words and you know exactly what you're saying, so that when you get on stage, you're not fumbling. Because when you get on stage for the first time, your body won't even belong to you anymore. It'll do stuff, your throat will do weird things if you're not used to speaking in public, but you just got to do it. And then at the end of that first gig, you'll find out whether you like it or not. It's either you love it or you hate it, I think.
Okay, Paul Taylor, thank you very much talking to France 24. Thank you.
Thanks.
And that brings us to the end of this stand-up special of France in Focus, but do stay tuned.